Welcome to the Young List. This is going to be an episode that is covering a topic I usually leave to the bigger channels, the ones that basically monetize and are professional, and their whole thing is to give recommendations for young buyers, impressionable buyers. You know this, the routine, I don't have to tell you. But as much as I try to avoid giving advice on what to buy and all that sort of stuff, you know, what's going to give you compliments, what's going to be the most beast mode thing to wear, what's going to be the thing that will get you the success you're after, etc., etc. Not knocking those kind of channels. People have a need to be told what to do sometimes. They serve a purpose. I just try to go a little more into the hobby side, a little more into the, I guess, connoisseur side of things, without being like too snobby about it, right? Because no one likes a snob either. So, but I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and we got to talking about fragrances that actually, if you don't know what they are, this is the key. If you don't know what they are, they come across a lot more high class and expensive than they actually are, because the accords and the notes and the overall composition of the fragrance has kind of gone up market. And even though the cheap fragrance that sort of started it all, that fragrance usually still exists. Very seldom is it discontinued. Sometimes it is, but that the origin of the species, if you will, is always something on the designer level, sometimes even the drugstore level, but it gets elevated over time. But if you wear that one, it is almost indistinguishable from the upmarket variants that have kind of replaced it. Does that make sense to you? Like, it's something that began as a cheap thing and then ended up being a really expensive luxury thing later. So if you wear the cheap one, which is always older, right, as the case goes, people don't know that. They don't know that you're not wearing the expensive one, that you're wearing the 20, 30, maybe even 40-year-old precursor to the expensive thing. They just assume that you're wearing that. And it's kind of funny, and also at the same time, kind of cool. So, thus I decided to make a video about it and talk about fragrances that are really cheap, whether they're cheap just normally or they're just sold cheap at discounters, because some things are not all that cheap in retail, but they're really cheap online. Either one. Cheap for you to purchase, but if worn in a blind taste test out in public, people would swear you were wearing something that was 3, 4, 5 times more expensive. And you can just be like this and not say anything about it. Just keep that secret to yourself. So let's get started on that, shall we? Cheap fragrances that smell really expensive. Something I normally leave to the bigger channels, like I said. But I'm doing it here because we had a conversation, my friend and I want to pass that on to you. Let's go. The first one is not super obvious, but I've talked about it before too, if you've been watching my channel for a while. It's good old-fashioned CK1 from 1994. Why? It's easy. Because just about every luxury market, high-end niche market, citric, floral, musk perfume that I've ever smelled, including things like Cosmorati Mephisto, okay, that one counts as well, things in the Renaissance line, the was it XJ 1776 or whatever. All the stuff in that line from Xerjoff, and many, many other examples, including Creeds and other ones. These citric white floral fragrances that have pillowy musks, beautiful rose, jasmine, white floral combos, bright citrus, tea notes, okay? All of them. And you're paying big money for those. Yes, you are. I know you are. I'm looking at you. You're paying $300-400 for those bottles. But you could spend like $20-30 on this and basically get the thing that started it all. Because until this came around in 94, that particular scent profile didn't quite exist. Yeah, there were citric floral fragrances before this, but none of them had quite the same white musk profile that this has. This was a very sort of ingenious, unique, primarily synthetic creation. Alberto Morillas and Harry Fremont, who together were a dream team for a little while, and they concocted this. And if you wear this, don't say anything to anybody. People will think you're wearing one of those high-end, expensive, niche, luxury brand citric floral fragrances, and I've smelled a dozen of them, and they always end up bringing me back here. They always bring me back here, and I only need to own this. I don't need the others. So there you have it. And it's just kind of like good old CK1. Smells like $1 million. Didn't even know it. Now another one, and I won't say that the profile began with this fragrance, but I know the profile definitely exists mostly in the niche space, the luxury space. But here we have another flanker of the CK1 line called CK All. And this came out in about 2017, I believe, 16 or 17. And what makes this fragrance so fun is that there are a lot of sharp citrus fragrances with a woody, ambroxanous dry down, that things in the ballpark of Galloway, right, by Parfums de Marly Galloway. Various mind game fragrances come to mind for me. Some Electimus things come to mind for me. Some MFKs actually also come to mind for me. And a lot of them have a ton in common with this DNA right here. And once again, this was Alberto Morillas and Harry Fremont. I think Fremont retired shortly after this came out, but they returned and they reprised and they created this. It's not as pillowy and not as rich as CK1. It's a bit sharper, a bit more citric, a bit woodier, but once again, you can spray a bunch of this on and you will smell like any number of those $300-400 citrus, floral, high-end things that are really just kind of riffing on the same general gist that this is. So I don't own Galloway. I don't need to. I have this. Now, another one that really kind of gets me going is you have a lot of people out there that spend big, big, big money. Big money. Big money on oud fragrances. Big money. They want to smell like $1 million. Wow. Montal's been at it a lot longer than most of the high-end brands putting out these oud fragrances. If you're wearing stuff from Frederick Malle, like the Night, if you're wearing any number of exclusive Gucci oud fragrances or Byredo ouds or stuff from any of the high-end exclusive niche lines, then you have to remember a lot of them borrowed their DNA, like the Alchemist's Garden fragrances. Voice of the Snake is one. The Louis Vuitton fragrances like Ombre Nomad, Nouveau Monde, both of those. Oud 27 by Le Labo. All that stuff. Big, expensive. But Montal actually predates most of them. So they're not super cheap. Like, they're not 20 bucks cheap. They're not 30 bucks cheap. They're going to cost you 60, 70 bucks in some cases. But $60 to $70 is still way cheaper than 300, 400, 500. If you're going into that Frederick Malle range, like 1,000, 12, 13, $1,500. I'm like, what? Why? Why? You want to smell like Frederick Malle the night for $1,500? I can't get you exactly there, but I can get you real close with Montal fragrances. And you can buy literally like 20 of them for the price of one bottle of the Frederick Malle. Let me get you started. You want that real cheesy sort of fecal oud that the night has? Well, you can take your pick between these two. Oud Clé d'Arabie or Royal Oud. If you choose Oud Clé d'Arabie, you're going to get more of that dirty birdie, phenolic kind of thing. The sharper, more cheese kind of thing you're going to get from the Royal Oud here. You might be able to layer these two together and get close to the night if you really want to replicate that exact smell. But honestly, I don't, because these are good on their own separately, but they're both very heady, very musky. Not super rose oriented. If you want something that's a little more rose oriented, you can do this one. It's called Attar. And I think Attar will get you probably conceptually closest to the night. Not exactly though, because Attar has more sandalwood in it than the night does. It has more rose in it. But in terms of the dry down being like closest to, it's going to again have a little bit of that phenolic smell, a little bit of that dirty Hindi oud, but the Oud Clé d'Arabie is going to be the worst offender of the three, the biggest stink, if that's what you're after. But why spend more? Now, if you're more of a like voice of the snake kind of guy, or like a voice of the snake or an ombre nomad sort of guy, you want a little bit more of that like raspberry rose kind of oud phenomenon going on, then you want this one, the Oud Pashmina. The Oud Pashmina is going to get you closer to that sort of raspberry rose, Tom Fordish, Louis Vuitton kind of vibe. It's not my favorite of the line, but I would buy this before I buy a Castor by Parfums de Marly, which is a $350 fragrance. It's basically this for like 5 times as much. So once again, these all smell like $1,000,000. If you think oud, specifically that more westernized kind of oud, I mean the other ones are not very westernized. Those are very stinky. But if you want the cleaner, more like I said, modern medicinal kind of oud profile, then this is going to get you where you need to go. And Montal's been doing these. They come from Dubai, okay? So it's as authentic as it gets. Yeah, Montal Paris. Montal Paris is the name of the brand, but they're not made in Paris. Trust me. They may say they're made in Paris, but they're not. They're very clearly not. So, another one. Smells like $1,000,000. A lot of you guys, you like stuff like Bois de Portugal. Bois de Portugal is a very, very expensive fragrance. Now again, I can't get you exactly in the wheelhouse. Nothing really smells exactly like it, but if you want to be in that neighborhood, I have some very good cheap options that smell really classy. The first one is going to be this guy right here. Lalique Pour Homme, the first men's Lalique fragrance from 1997. Now this is going to be sharper, has a bit more iris. There's not really any detectable iris in Bois de Portugal, so it's a bit more powdery, a bit more floral. But we're going to have a similar lavender, petitgrain, geranium, sandalwood, patchouli, oak moss, that what they call semi-oriental fougere vibe. If you're looking for that particular vibe, you don't want to spend big money on it, here you go. And they've got eau de parfum, which this is. If you don't want it as heavy as this, you can get a little bit lighter, a little more citrus by buying the eau de toilette. See, with Bois de Portugal, there's only one concentration. This one you get two. You can mix it up a little bit. There's another one. A lot of people really love their big, clean, sparkly geranium fragrances. One particular fragrance that is really sort of like, not the most popular Creed fragrance, but this one, Himalaya. And there are a lot of things that are very similar to this in smell, like things like Percival by Parfum de Marly, also really expensive. But a lot of these very geranium forward style fougères that are kind of clean, fruity. Not so much fruity on the Himalaya, but you get my point. Really sparkly, fruity floral geranium forward style fougere. Well, what if I were to tell you that before Percival, before a lot of these things existed, before Himalaya existed in 2002, we had a Paco Rabanne fragrance from way back in 1993 that was covering the same territory, made by one of my favorite perfumers, Gerard Anthony, the same guy who made Edzaro Pour Homme. So if you love Edzaro Pour Homme, owe it to yourself to check this out. And it is good old XS Pour Homme Paco Rabanne. The new bottles are short and fat, so if you don't want to go vintage, let's get a newer one. It's fine. I've got the vintage one, so mine looks like this. But this has a very, very similar geranium, a little bit of lavender, but very geranium forward. Geranium, a little bit of mint in this, oak moss, sandalwood, tonka, very sharp, very clean, almost sparkling in how clean it is. And you wear this, you're going to smell like $1,000,000. Because like I said, there are a lot of expensive fragrances, really expensive fragrances that smell like this. So you don't need to buy any of those. You can just buy this. Now, another one. A lot of the luxury brands put out big strong sort of tobacco-ish gourmand style fragrances, very heavy, very sweet. Stuff like Angel Share by Killian, stuff like Naxos, okay, by again Zerjoff. Red Tobacco by Mancera, although it's not really super expensive, but it's still in that upper range. So here's some things in that style you can wear that will have the same kind of rich, sweet tobacco and or amber kind of vibe that will get you there and won't cost $1 billion. So the first one is actually an Avon fragrance. Although they don't make it in the US anymore, it's still made in Eastern European markets. So if you're willing to go on eBay and order stuff from Poland, you can go to Mercari or Bonanza. They have stuff there too. But you can get what's called a bottle of Tomorrow. Tomorrow for Men is what it's called. And Tomorrow is a fantastic gourmand, amber, sweet fragrance. This goes all the way back to 2005. This actually came out the same year as Dior Homme. Because this came out the same year as Dior Homme, a lot of people thought it was a clone of Dior Homme because it has a similar design language, but I don't think so. I mean, Dior Homme has the big square blocky cap. This one's a little more like an ice cube. But this has the caramel, it has vanilla, it has cocoa in it. This has rich, rich amber because Avon, and you know, I don't have to tell you this, you already know, but Avon has been doing amber notes for like 140 years now. Okay, like it says 1887. So they know how to make amber notes, and it's one of the things that Avon is actually kind of famous for in the industry. Maybe not amongst you frag enthusiasts, but at least within the industry, among perfumers, Avon is respected for their amber because Avon amber always is very kind of iconic. They have a certain way to do it that no one else does it. And even though they've long since given up their in-house labs and they contract out to IFF, Givaudan, and Firmenich, they still have their formula for the way they put their amber together. It's different from anyone else, and it still kind of makes it unique. So you won't find an amber quite like this anywhere else. And it's a gourmand amber. It's very, very nice. You could also Dolce & Gabbana, the one for men, you could sub this for that as well. And that came out after this. This came out before the one for men. Same kind of thing. If you want sweeter, if you need it sweeter, then I can do sweeter. Now this one is bona fide discontinued, unfortunately. So stock on this may not be so good. I mean, it's not going to be $300, $400, but you may have to pay more than you would like to pay for this brand, at least. But Spark for Men by Liz Claiborne. This has the big boozy notes, big cinnamon, big caramel, and this is also Harry Fremont once again composed this. So there's a very lovely boozy note to this. To me, this is almost like a darker kind of oak barrel kissing cousin to something like Mambo for Men or even the original Curve. But this is much better than those two. I mean, I love Curve, don't get me wrong, but this is just a very rich, heady, great for fall, great for winter. Again, you're the kind of person that's going to spend money on Naxos, you're going to spend money on Alexandria too, you're going to spend money on Angel Share. You're going to spend money on stuff like Grand Soir by MFK. You're spending big money on all that stuff. You just get a bottle of this, and it's going to get you there. And you're going to smell classy, and you're going to smell rich and redolent, which is the point, right, of that style of fragrance. And it's really good. Now another one. Another one that you guys like is your big, fresh sort of like Aventus style fragrances. Your big, sort of clean, sweet, that whole thing. Well, once again, I can steer you into a direction that would be much cheaper overall than any of those. I've got a couple of them for you. So, not super cheap, but still cheaper than the things I'm comparing it to. First one, very unlikely, but this Caron pour un homme le matin. There's a pair, le soir le matin. This one feels like it is trying to have that bit of modern sort of citrus and sort of a bit more built around kind of a ambroxan base. Now this still has a bit of that fougere DNA. There's going to be geranium in here, a little bit of lavender in here, but it really plays around with a big, smooth amyl glycolate note. So not quite pineapple exactly, because it's not shaped that way into pineapple, but you will recognize that facet. And it takes that amyl glycolate note and it kind of puts it around some ginger, puts it around some sweet bergamot citruses, the geranium, like I told you about, the ambroxan in the base, clary sage, there's clary sage in this, and it just hits all the boxes. And this is way cheaper. It's not a clone, so you're not going to smell like Aventus. That's the key here. You're not going to smell like Aventus, but you're going to be in that neighborhood. And isn't that what you want? You don't want to smell like a clone. I mean, I don't mind wearing clones. I've got Club de Nuit, and I wear it all the time. But some of y'all cats get insecure about that. So I'm trying to give you different options, things that don't smell like the Target mark, a little different, but get you there all the same, right? So it's like you're not using this service, you're using that service. You're not using Uber, you're trying out Lyft. There you go. Not exactly the same. Another one. Have you smell like $1,000,000? This one's going to surprise some of you. It's probably the most expensive fragrance on this list, but it's cheap compared to a lot of things that it's put in the same running with. Ralph Lauren Purple Label. It costs you over $100. So, like I said, it's the most expensive thing on this list. But this could easily be a $400, $500 bottle because it is such a clean, well-balanced fragrance. It is in that same sort of wheelhouse again as like Aventus, as Cedrat Bois, as Elysium by Roja Dove. So if you're an Elysium fan, same sort of thing. This doesn't really go as heavy into the citruses. This is more blackcurrant, so it's darker. This is darker than Elysium, darker than Aventus, darker than any of those fragrances, but it has the same clean, smooth base. It's got probably the best suede note I've ever experienced in a fragrance. I've never experienced such a soft, like nubuck suede note is what's in this. And was originally an expensive fragrance when it came out. You could only get it in Ralph Lauren boutiques as part of their Purple Label suit range, their sartorial range. But now it's made its way down to department stores. You can get it at Nordstrom, you can get it online. So again, you can smell like $1 million with this. And also, as kind of like a consolation prize, if you like your big, expensive, niche musk fragrances like Musk Ravageur by Frederic Malle once again, same perfumer as Musk Ravageur right here, Bogart Pour Homme. And when you wear this, same kind of big creamy musk profile, sweet, bit of like a cherry nuance in here, bit of a tobacco nuance. But this stuff, if you didn't know what it was, you didn't know it was Jacques Bogart, you'd say it was some high dollar stuff. And I don't say that about many Bogart fragrances. Most Bogart fragrances smell like they cost. Even though I love them, I love them. But most of them smell like what they cost. This one, just a cut above that. And because of that, and because it's made by the same perfumer who has done some of these high-end niche fragrances, and it has many of the same traits as them, it kind of inherits that similar smells expensive. Especially, again, in a blind test where you don't know what it is, you can't recognize it. So frag heads might call you out, but the average person, and that's all this is for. This video is for the average person. This is not for the frag head. So before any of y'all guys with your 600 bottle collections like me, and you go get on your high horse and try to do this to me, be like, this isn't for you. This is for the regular Joes. They just want to smell like they got money, even if they don't. so there you go. And this is what you do. And Bogart Pour Homme is definitely one I would recommend. That's going to round it out for me. Okay, I've done my due diligence here. There are other things I could probably name. I didn't want to do any like expensive smelling aquatics because I have a hard time wrapping my head around the idea of an aquatic smelling expensive, so I left those out. But if any of you have suggestions for that, I can do them later. But there you go. Fragrances that are relatively cheap compared to what you could be wearing, right? Like I said, so these $300, $400, $500 bottles, but relatively cheap compared to the most expensive one is that Ralph Lauren Purple Label. But when you wear them, you'll smell like $1 million. This has been the Unlist. Catch you later.